All right, so we're gonna go ahead and work on the front shocks, struts, whatever they're called, um, on this old 928. Front end was sitting low, uh, just too low. So we're gonna go ahead and replace them. Probably original, from what I can tell, but maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, it was sitting low. We'd raise it up, jack it up, put it back down on the ground, and be fine for a day or two, not moving, just sitting here, and then it would settle back down. It was just sitting way too low. So we got to get this thing riding right. So we got some new shocks, which are those things in there. So we're gonna go ahead and work on getting the shocks out. So shouldn't be that hard, hopefully. We just got some bolts up there. And then down here we got a bolt. You can see I already got my ratchet on there with a 19 millimeter. I will have to come over here to this side and put a wrench on that. And once we've done that, hopefully that'll bust loose. Then we can go up inside go up here, go in yonder. I don't have the hood up yet, but we'll go up there and undo the top part, and then we should be able to get it out of there, hopefully. But that's what we're going to be doing in this video, is swapping out the front shocks. So we'll go ahead and get started on that, and see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well. Okay, so here's the good news. It came loose pretty easy. Not really that hard at all, just had to bump a little bit. What I also found is if I put my wrench there and I let it rest on that brake caliper support piece there, the wrench just kind of held itself. So that worked out good for me, but that looks like it's coming apart. And after that, we'll go tackle the top end of it. Okay, so I went ahead and pulled this thing off. Basically that was on this same bolt right here. So that goes in there. Sorry for the bad lighting. Nothing's magnetic on this car, so it's hard to get the lighting good for you. But the next thing we're gonna go after, because we gotta replace it, is that lower ball joint right there. So we got a new one, but we just gotta get this one off. So there's the nut on the top of that thing, which is kind of scary looking, but we'll figure something out. And then down here, there's 2 more bolts that got to come out in order to get that whole piece all the way back there. All that's got to come out. So we're going to go after those right now, see if we can figure out how to get those apart. Okay, I've been working away trying to get these things busted loose for the most part. So right here, as you can see, there's the part of that nut that your wrench goes on, and then there's that extra piece sticking up above. So what that does is it looks like it butts into part of the hub assembly there, and then that, by result, as you continue to back that off, and it gets pretty tight, and I had to get a hammer and kind of tap the wrench to make it do it. It's a 19 millimeter, just like most of the other stuff down here, but it ends up backing your ball joint out. So I stopped because I wanted to keep everything kind of together until I could go after these. So the one on the right is a 19 mil, and I got that one busted loose with a breaker bar. It was kind of tight, but I got it busted loose. Now this one with the socket on it, that's a 16 mil. So I'm gonna go after that one next. Hopefully I can get that one loose. And if I do, then that's everything down here loose for what we need to do to the suspension. And then we just got to start working on putting stuff back together. Well, here you go. So that's that bolt that was holding that together. So basically I just beat on that from the other side with a hammer real quick. Once it got flush, I just took a little screwdriver, tapped it through, and now that is completely off. So that's that. While I was tapping that through, this sucker fell off. So that's all good to go. As you can see, here's this little nut right here. So this is what that nut looks like. So got that piece up top that pushes. Really, it's a cool design. I don't even need an extra tool to get the dang ball joint off. It just does it itself. So that's pretty cool. But that's that thing. And then all of that fell off. So you got your busted up nasty ball joint there. Your 2 eccentrics, which don't lose those because they're like frick, I want to say $200 a piece or some crap like that. Ridiculous is what they are. Anyway, that's all that. This is all apart, so that you can see I can move this back and forth. So I think as soon as I undo the top, then hopefully we can work on trying to get this thing out. But we'll go up top, undo the top part of the strut, and then try to get that whole thing out. Okay, here is the top of the strut tower. As you can see, there's a bunch of hoses and other random things in the way, but we'll get to all these bolts once you get under there. This side, completely unencumbered pretty much. That's what it's supposed to look like. So basically, got those 3 outer bolts. Don't do the middle one. Do the 3 outer ones, and then you can drop that whole thing down, hopefully. So we'll dig those out in there. There you can see one of them sneak peeking through. There's another one over here, and then one down in there. We'll get them and see if we can get this strut out. All right, guys. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see down in here, but we got them all off. There you go. They're all off, and I know they're loose. The first two, that one and this one over here, are pretty easy to get to. The one here in the corner, I had to get a swivel. Sorry to wait, but I had to get my swivel and stuff, go down a 3/8 drive. But anyway, it reached, got it off, didn't break anything. Just had to kind of squish some hoses out of the way a little bit. But now we're gonna see if we can get this thing to go down. Well, there she is on the floor. So talk through a little bit of what happened here. So if you look up here, that lower A-arm or whatever you want to call it is still there. Sorry, another one of these. So that's still there. I had taken the lower ball joint off, which is that thing down there on the right. And then I loosened all the nuts up top, right? So everything could come out except that lower A-arm didn't go down low enough. And then also this collar on here and stuff was catching on the A-arm. So based on that, I just went ahead, and you can see these 2 holes right here. That's where bolts go through off the A-arm. And then there's nuts on the back side. Just some 22mm nuts. So I'll roll this over a little bit. And there's those studs that stick through, right? So basically 2 nuts. And because I already had the other ball joint open, apart, I haven't taken the top ball joint apart at all. It's still there. Anyway, it's all out. So now I just got to go do the same thing to the other side. But what I wanted to show you is, if you look right here, I have an adjustment collar, right? So this is where we looked and went, woohoo, we have adjustable front suspension. Well, as I've seen, this side had a new tie rod. It had a nick on the rim. I've showed you before that little depression right there where I think the tire came back and pushed on that a little bit. Evidenced by all of that crap, shims they used. I think this car took a hit on the suspension on this side. So anyway, what I'm thinking is something weird happened, because this side has an adjustment. And I'm going to walk you over here. Yeah, that's the nuts that were on the back of that A-arm. And then I'm going to walk you right over here. And I didn't bring my light, but it's very clear. There's no adjustment collar on this one, but there is threads. So you can see the threads, I can feel the threads. So they're there. There's just no collar. So I guess that's what happens when you buy cars from the 80s and you don't know who did what to what. Anyway, I may have to order one of those collars now, I guess. We'll see. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and get the other side apart, and then go get the spring squisher, take this all apart, and see what I got to do from there. But yeah, that's where we're at. So now just do the same to the other side and move on. Okay, so I went up and looked. I found out you can actually order this right here from like a Porsche dealership if you need it. But you know how I said there was no ring? Well, there it is right there. Somebody had undone it so far that it basically fell off and it's no longer up there because they had tried to lower the front end or something. I don't know, but there she is. So it drove around like that. And honestly, it wasn't, I mean, there was no visible, I mean, no audible rattles or anything. No idea, man. Anyway, there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and keep pulling this side off. This is the driver's side. Get this thing pulled apart. This side actually has this metal piece right here that our passenger side didn't. I don't know if it's supposed to have it on the passenger side or not, but it didn't. So maybe that's because of whatever impact happened over there, or somebody, I don't know. Who knows? I'm just dealing with it as I go. But anyway, we're just going to get to this side. Everything is basically the same except for that metal piece right here. And then the fact that our adjusting nut is all the way down there on the bottom of the shock. So anyway, we're going to get this apart, and next we'll get the spring squisher and get these shocks apart and put the new ones in. All right, so we got this thing up on the table. Ran down to the O'Reilly's, grabbed these McPherson Strut spring compressors. And so we got those hooked up there. These are new. They've actually got the little safety pins right there. You can see those go in, help keep it on there. Then you come down here once you've got it compressed pretty good, and you go after this thing. If you can see, there's flat edges on both sides here. So I got the old channel locks, or not channel locks, crescent wrench, and put that on that, and then got the 19 mil on the nut, and then you just pull in opposite directions. Came off. So now we'll start disassembling this thing, and I'll once I've got it all exploded, I'll show it to you on the table. Okay, here she is, torn to pieces. So as you can see, you start with your nut, washer, then this thing here, which actually sits like that, another washer. Then you got this big rubber piece here, and then obviously the spring is next. But on top of the shock, you've got that first, then a washer, then this plate, and then this sleeve, which the threaded part is actually right there. And as you can see, they had it run up as far as they could to try to make the car as low as possible. Here's the actual strut we're going to replace. As you can see, that collapsed down as I was working on knocking some of this stuff off, because you got to put it down and just, you know, hit it with a hammer and knock a couple of these bottom pieces off. But yeah, it's definitely shot. I'm guessing original, and definitely needs to be replaced. So we're going to go ahead and get the new one out of the box. And we got the bogues for the front. They didn't have them for the back. We got conies back there, but we got the bogues for the front. So we're going to go ahead and put those back in here and put this all back together, and then work on putting the passenger side of the car back together. Just want to show you real quick. So these Bogue Sachs ones are the ones we got. You see made in Germany, all that stuff. Everybody has the front ones, but all the rear ones for the Sachs they don't have. And 928 Specialist, that website told me that they're only sending them to the dealers now. So anyway, we'll go ahead and replace that grayish one right there with this new black one. All right, well, you know, if you're not a Porsche aficionado and you haven't worked on these things before, I mean, you try to do some research, but you don't always do the right thing. Anyway, so I got this all busted apart, and when I was taking this driver's side one apart, I found this thing. And I was like, what is this exactly? And as you can see, it comes apart. Not quite like a cookie, but pretty close. And so that's all that was left. I went and did some research, said, what is that dang thing? And I figured out that is a bumper that's supposed to go, so it goes up in here, you know. Anyway, so the other one didn't even have any of that left. This one had this much left. So what I'm gonna have to do is order those. So I went up and looked real quick. And once I get those in, I might have to finish this one. So we're pretty much stalled out right now on this. So we're just gonna have to let this sit. I'm gonna see if I can expedite a couple of these suckers. They're like 20 bucks a piece. And once I get them, then I'll be able to put this one together, take the other one that's already done, sitting right there. At least I didn't put it back on the car, but it's done sitting there. I'm gonna have to undo that one again so I can put that bumper in there. So anyway, I guess learn as you go, but at least I learned soon enough, and I will get it done right. So this thing should definitely run a lot better, or ride a lot better, once we get all this done. So we're gonna pause now for parts. So we got the parts in. These little things here is what that little crumbly piece of leftover stopper, bumper thing was. So this is what it was supposed to look like. I got the other one. I've got to take the other strut, coilover, whatever that's called, back apart. Put this on. So anyway, goes on there like that. Then we'll put this cap on, then that, then the washer, then the nut. So anyway, that's what I was waiting on, and there we go. So we'll finish putting this driver's side one together, go back over, take this passenger side one apart, put this back in it, and then put it back together, and then we can start building the suspension back out from that point. So here we go. Check back in with you when I'm ready to start putting stuff on the car. Okay, we had a wrestling match here. Trying to do this by myself, but basically we got this upper A-arm back in. I've got it in the holes back there, but I haven't put bolts on the back. It's just resting down here on the bottom. But I did get the coilover strut thing back in. So that's back up there. I've tightened the nuts up on top inside the engine bay. As you see, it's down here. Went ahead and put that bolt through. I've got my link to the sway bar. That's all set up, ready to go. Now I got to crawl into the car and put the nuts back on this A-arm up here, and then after that we can put the lower ball joint on and work on connecting everything back together. So I'm going to do that after I go walk the dogs, probably eat a little bit of food, and then come back down here and get started on finishing this off, and then move over to the passenger side, or to the driver's side. All right, so anyway, I tightened those bolts up there. Now we're going to go after the first new piece, this lower ball joint. So there's a brand new one. It's all sealed up and everything. So we're going to go ahead and get this attached. Remember, we got to use these two. Got to use these two things here. Make sure we get those in, so that way you can adjust some stuff. But anyway, we'll get these things put in, and I'll show you that once it's all set and ready to go. And then from there, we'll start building out on the brakes. But we'll just keep moving along. All right, so that's all in, bolted up. The upper A-arm, the lower ball joint, we got that in as well, so that's all set up there. See that in there. Now we're going to move on to putting the brakes back together.